The end is finally here, as the king is sent into exile, and all hell breaks loose in Bon Appetit, Your Majesty. The recently concluded episode 11 left most viewers' mouths agape, as the villains gained the upper hand, killing our favorite characters in their wake. Who else can hardly wait for MokJu's comeuppance? What's more, from the preview for the grand finale, a rift in time is going to take JiYoung back to her time, in the nick of time. What's more, obviously, Prince JeSan and MokJu will fail. You can see the little Prince JinMyeong wearing the king's clothes in the preview for the grand finale. Meanwhile, the beginning of the last episode solved the mystery behind the book, Manganrock. It's now apparent that the king and JiYoung were past lovers, and were existing in a time loop. The king's journal, which he also named Manganrock, is the original Manganrock, which is why the one that brought JiYoung back in time disappeared, when the king named his journal after it. At the beginning of the last episode, the king asked JiYoung to come back to him, and even said he'd find her, if she happened to lose the means of coming back to him. JiYoung is currently fulfilling her first promise of coming back to him. If you recall, she had time-slipped when she read the words at the back of the journal, which asked a dearest to come back to an aggrieved lover. The way she went back in time proves that the book was meant for her. What's more, did you notice the torn-out page in the journal, when she skimmed through it? It had read, Wanspan, which happens to be what the king's eunuch had asked him to name the dish, whose name he couldn't remember, in the last episode. This happens to be the first dish JiYoung had made for him, when they first met. And it also happens to be the dish he had promised to make her, every morning. What's more, this hints that the king, Eheon, will appear with the torn page in the future, ready to make the dish for JiYoung. This also means that it'll be his turn to fulfill the promise of finding her, if she happens to lose the means of going back to him. The king is going to the future, to find his chef. Meanwhile, the last episode was a roller coaster of emotions. Who would have thought that Jae, the king and JiYoung's love cheerleader and matchmaker, who has been doing marvelously in the viewer's eyes, would die in such a way? But then, this makes sense. For the historical records to remain the same, those who knew the truth have to be deposed. That means Jae, his father, and the Queen Dowager, who had seen the tyrant's face. Not even JiYoung's confession of love could hold the king's fury when he discovered how his mother died. He was ready to become a tyrant, to avenge his mother's death. This was a well-acted scene, with Lee Chae-min and JiYoung pulling their weight. Who would have thought that his late mother's last wish would be what would assuage his rage? The episode still didn't explain why the consorts, blinded by jealousy, did what they did to the late queen, or why the Queen Dowager asked her son to exile, and then kill the late queen, for scratching his face. It also doesn't make sense that she once said that she'd do it all over again, if they were to go back in time. Seeing how she'd helped the king and the country, you would think there must be a good reason why she schemed with the consorts to oust the late queen. To the end, she had faith in the king, and finally realized Prince JeSan's tyranny a bit too late. The records will state that she was killed by the king, as Prince JeSan had worn the king's mask and dance robe. The maids at the Queen Dowager's quarters had mistaken him for the king. What's more, the king, and even JiYoung, were a bit frustrating in the last episode. The king already suspects treachery, after they were attacked at the craftsman's shop, which is why he asked his guard to investigate, but never fully dived into it. It took JiYoung pointing out how absurd the timing of the drafters' arrival felt, and the happenings around them, for the king to even raise a brow. Even with her warnings and observations, he didn't really see it as something imminent. Even JiYoung had warned that the edges of objects are always harder to see, and when you sleep, be sure to lock the latch securely. JiYoung had forgotten to deliver this message, with her life on the line, when she returned to the palace. But the king couldn't even decipher the meaning behind JiYoung's words. He was just trying to warn the king that a coup was brewing under his nose, and asked him not to leave the palace at night, but to keep it secure. It also meant that the threat was closer than he thought. But the king misinterpreted it. I mean, how could he leave the palace without even confirming if JiYoung was truly kidnapped? He left the palace without any defense, as he left with many of the soldiers, making it easy for Prince JeSan to carry out his schemes. What's more, who else can hardly wait for MokJu to face her karma? True, she was planted by Prince JeSan, who gave her a new purpose in life. But all this is because the king had come to love JiYoung, and not her, who had been deceiving him all these years. Her actions are acts of jealousy. It'll be poetic justice, if she dies by Prince JeSan's sword. Meanwhile, the jester had been on time to save JiYoung. It was a bit frustrating, watching her hesitate. The villains had figured out that she's the king's weakness, and had used her to their advantage. Obviously, the last episode is going to be a roller coaster ride. The plan was to kill the Queen Dowager, blame it on the king, hence justifying the coup, and then kill the king while he's outside the palace. The king's kinsmen are bound to turn against him, as they already planned to hold a meeting secretly that night, to talk about how to protect themselves against him. This is bound to make it easy for Prince JeSan to depose the king. Despite the fierce battle in the forest, the king survives and makes it back to the palace, to a total surprise. He's accused of killing his grandmother, and he's deposed. MokJu and Prince JeSan couldn't be any happier at the success of their plan, but it seems MokJu might have other plans for Prince JeSan. What's more, after killing the Queen Dowager, Prince JeSan had sought Prince JinMyeong and his mother out. This is because the prince is next in line to the throne, if something were to happen to the king. But then, does it make sense that Prince JeSan, who had been known by many to be idiotic, would be suddenly accepted as the king? Meanwhile, aware of history, that the king will die in exile, JiYoung rallies Gilgwem and her kitchen staff, to help break out the king. A fight erupts, and JiYoung and the king are separated. It seems the villains will have the upper hand to the very end. The king is asked to come alone, to rescue JiYoung. This is bound to be where JiYoung's sojourn in the past ends. The king must have left the palace with his journal, Manganrock, which is bound to take JiYoung back to her time. The book must have taken the brunt of Prince JeSan's sword, when he strikes the king, creating a rift that will take JiYoung back to her time in the future. She's bound to unite with JiYoung, the Ming cook, as they still have unfinished business. And the king has to fulfill his promise, by finding her in the future. On a scale of 1 to 10, how anxious are you for the grand finale? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this content, please give it a thumbs up, share it, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell for all things wonderfully K-drama. Thanks for watching, bye.